Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, we'll talk about a disappointing series to end the first half for the Philadelphia Phillies, losing 2 of 3 to the Miami Marlins. What went wrong over the weekend, and how does the team bounce back on the other side? We'll discuss. We'll take a look at the schedule for the rest of the month of July to see what the boys have when they come out of the All-Star break at the end of this week. And we'll also talk about the Phillies' next version of their great first-round draft picks. Okay, well, we hope he's going to be the next great version. We'll talk about their drafts recently and who they selected last night in the first round of the Major League Baseball draft. On today's episode, let's jump into it.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. You've been hearing me talk Phillies baseball for years in the Philadelphia media market. Happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Make sure you're rating and reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that good stuff that you know really helps us out here at Locked On, helps me out personally, and helps you enjoy Locked On Phillies the best possible way. So go ahead and jump in. It's a win, 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 win. And it's easy to do. It just takes 2 seconds. Just hit the subscribe button on the top corner there that you see under the page name, and you'll be able to go ahead and subscribe to Locked On Phillies. So nice and easy. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code Locked On, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. More on them later. Let's jump into what went on over the weekend, though. Okay, so the Phillies, we know they go to Tampa Bay. They take care of business. They sweep the Rays. They become the first team to do that at Tropicana Field all year, and it's the highest of highs. And then you go to Miami and you win another game, and it's the Christian Pache home run game and then that was on Friday. Absolutely incredible moment for Christian Pache and that go-ahead 2-run home run in the ninth. Everything's great there, right? So 4 games straight on that road trip. It was up to 13 games overall on the road winning streak. And then game 2 against Miami, unfortunately, the Phillies lose. And game 3, they lose. And they end up losing 2 of 3 to Miami. Now, we talked about the mentality. And I brought up winning 1 of 3 in Miami multiple times because I realized that it's a place that the Phillies don't always play well. They have a really solid team. It's the All-Star break they're heading into. So normally that's disadvantage to the road team. I mean, think about it. If you're rounding out your first half and you got some home games, you're on your own bed and you're like, I got vacation coming up or whatever, let's finish this out. Okay, let's focus on winning these games and get going. Now, if you're a road team that just swept one of the best teams in baseball and you have 3 more games until the All-Star break and then you can go back home and you want to get back home, you're like, okay, I might be a little bit distracted. Let's get this over with and get out of here. The Marlins aren't getting out of there. They're getting that over with and then going home to relax. Some of them will be going to the All-Star game. But point being is, I think in that scenario, it's a tougher situation for the road baseball team. But looking at the way that the Phillies lost those games, I mean, the Phillies didn't play awful baseball, right? They just didn't finish out the series strongly. They lost 5-3, winnable game that they just didn't have enough offense in. They lost 7-3. Another game that at points seemed winnable, but Aaron Nola just gave up too many home runs. We'll pop into those games specifically and talk a little bit more about it. But just to tell you the mindset, the way I look at things are normally 10-game spans, and then sometimes if you have big road trips, I'll look at road trips. The Philadelphia Phillies just went on a road trip against 2 playoff teams, and they went 4-2. That will always be acceptable to me. Always. 1 billion times out of 1 billion. That's winning baseball. Now, what that means is when they play bad baseball teams, they're going to have to start taking 2 of 3 or sweeping them. And then, I mean, they just swept one of the better teams in baseball. They're capable of it. But I know 4 out of 6 and losing 2 or 3 to the divisional team in your league that you're trying to chase down, that doesn't sound good, but you don't have to play like sexy baseball. You don't have to win 6 straight and then lose 1, then win 7 straight and then lose 2. And like, it doesn't have to be streaks. It just, you can be consistently Win 4 out of 6. Don't care how you do it. Don't care who you're playing. 4 out of 6. Continue to do that. You're going to continue to grow above 500. You're going to continue to put yourself in a position to be a playoff team. As we sit today in the standings, the Philadelphia Phillies are not in the playoffs. They're a half game back of the San Francisco Giants, but so many more games to play. 48-41 is the Phillies record. So when you look at that, that's 89 games played. 162 minus 89 means you have 73 games remaining to make up half a game. I like the Phillies odds. Now, just taking a quick peek at the games, if you missed them by any chance this weekend, to give you an idea what the Philadelphia Phillies did to get to this point. They actually had some good pitching matchups set up. They had Ranger Suarez going in game 2 of the series, and Suarez wasn't awful. He wasn't great, though. 5 2/3 innings pitched. He gave up 8 hits, 3 earned. 4 walks, which is a major issue, 4 strikeouts. So 8 hits, 4 walks. I mean, that's a lot of base runners allowed. The Marlins offense woke up there. But only 3 earned runs through nearly 6 full innings. It gives you an opportunity to work. And the Phillies got up early on a Trey Turner home run in the first inning, but then the Marlins poured it on in the first. The Phillies scored in the second, 2 runs in the second to tie it up at 3. But then they were done scoring. And then a 4th inning run and another one in the 7th, and Marlins just kind of choked the Phillies out. It was close. There was opportunities, just not enough offense late, and a lot of 0-fers on the lineup and a lot of 1-fers. The only person with 2 hits in this game for the Philadelphia Phillies was Alec Bohm. So just an offensively quiet game in game 2. We know game 1 was the Pache go-ahead 2-run home run. That was outstanding, incredible. They stole a victory from the jaws of defeat, and honestly, could have been a sweep down there in Miami. So count your blessings, ladies and gentlemen. People concerned about, they lost 2 of 3 to Miami. Yeah, 1 swing away, and it could have been 3 of 3. And that's not a bad thing to me. That's not, they need to play better. No, they won. So we don't have to revise history. I mean, 1 swing goes differently in the World Series, and the Phillies could be the defending World Series champions. I don't think Houston's sitting there saying, well, if Yordan Alvarez doesn't hit that home run, maybe the Phillies get you because you didn't do this, that, and the other thing. No, they enjoyed their parade and their ring and their trophy and all that stuff. So Phillies won game 1. Now let's move on to game 3, which saw Aaron Nola just give up home runs left and right. Home run in the first inning to Sanchez. Home run to Myers in the 3rd inning. Home run to De La Cruz in the 3rd inning. Just 3 home runs in the first 3 innings to make it 4-0. The game felt over. And Gene Segura in the 3rd inning also had an RBI single. For the Marlins, that is. He doesn't play for the Phillies anymore. 5-0. It was basically over from there. The Phillies only scored 3 runs. They tried to make a little bit of a run back at it. The closest they cut it was Edmundo Sosa hitting a home run in the 5th to make it 5-2 in a 3-run game. And they answered back in the 6th and the 8th, and too little too late for the Philadelphia Phillies. It just wasn't a good game offensively or pitching-wise, and Aaron Nola is drawing the ire of this fan base once again because he's inconsistent. He'll have 1 good start, then he'll give up a bunch of home runs to the Marlins when you're trying to chase him down. You still got to go address pitching at the deadline, and he's a big part of the reason why. But, yeah, rough couple of games to end the first half. Phillies are absolutely going to be fine. Their record at 48-41 is better than we probably thought it was going to be heading into the All-Star break. If you had asked us a month ago if they could be 7 games over 500 going into the All-Star break, you'd say no way. I would have said probably no way. But the month of June was kind to them, and the start of July has been nice as well. And we'll talk about coming up how the rest of July stacks out to see how much easier or harder the Philadelphia Phillies schedule gets. Bottom line, first half, going into the All-Star break, I'm comfortable with where the Philadelphia Phillies are record-wise and in the standings, even though they're way down in the NL East. Whatever. Get in, make it work, and those 2 losses of the Marlins notwithstanding, the Phillies have done what they needed to do to put themselves in contention in the second half. Now it's up to Dave Dombrowski to go out and add pieces at the deadline, and it's up to the players on the team to go ahead and continue the hot streak that they've been on as of late. Maybe not necessarily as hot. They're not going to win like 20 of every 25 games the rest of the way. That'd be ridiculous to expect. But I don't know, 7 of every 10, 8 of every 10, something like that. 4 of every 6. It's a good, comfortable way to look at it where you can stack wins that way. That's my goal. I'm not changing it. And we're going to just little by little chip away at this thing until the Philadelphia Phillies are locked into a playoff spot. Sound good? All right. Coming up, we're going to talk about the schedule and their chance to start chipping away in the second half as we continue Locked On Phillies. First of all, I want to tell you about my friends over at BetterHelp, okay? BetterHelp is absolutely awesome. They are helping so many people get the help that they want and need day to day when it comes to your mental health, all right? Let me just tell you a little bit about some problems in life. Not that I've got it all figured out, but I definitely have experienced my fair share. Sometimes in life, we're faced with tough choices. Path forward, it's not always clear. All right. You might be dealing with decisions around your career, relationships, just your day to day life, anything else. I mean, what therapy does is it helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate your life. It's kind of a compass that helps you pointing in the right direction. It doesn't steer the ship. Like the compass is not controlling the wheel, but it points you in the direction that just a direction you could go, a way that it helps you straighten things out and you can move forward with confidence and excitement once you have this advice and this life coaching and stuff like that. Trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. And BetterHelp can help you hook up with a good coach to do that type of stuff. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. So obviously not a coach, but that's the analogy of the sports team there. And you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. It's not like when the Phillies fired Joe Girardi and they needed to continue to pay off his contract. No, much easier than that. You can and you can find your Rob Thompson, but you can just switch anytime, no additional charge. Makes it so easy for you to find the right person to help you out. So let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. Okay, let's jump in and talk about the schedule coming up. Now, the Phillies' next game is not till Friday. It's 6:05 p.m. on Friday. So you got Monday through Thursday off from watching a nice little 4-day break in the middle of the season for everybody to rest up. I think the break is coming at a really good time for the Phillies to get Bryce Harper healthy and Jose Alvarado on the injured list. Some of these pitchers have been throwing deep innings because they've been throwing really well, the starters I'm talking about. So give them some time to rest and recuperate. I think that's all well and good. Now, I'm going to give our sponsor partner, Sirius XM Radio, a little bit of love because they carry every pitch of the Phillies' hometown radio broadcast. We mention them every episode when the games are going on. Now, there's not another game until Friday, but still want to give the same love to Sirius XM. Make sure you're checking out Phillies games on the SXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you could pull everything up there. Now, talking about the schedule, the Phillies, they start the next part of the season, the second half, if you will, even though they're more than halfway through, at home against the Padres. Padres have been struggling. They're 43 and 47. They're not a bad team, but they're not a good team. And they are going to be in desperation mode coming out of the All-Star break to get things right. Meanwhile, the Phillies are going to have to try and play them really, really well in that series to keep momentum and also keep a team that's chasing them in the wild card race down. 4-game series with a doubleheader on Saturday. So you got the Padres for 4. That doubleheader is going to be interesting. Doubleheaders are always tricky because more often than not, they're a split. But we'll see what the Phillies can do. Remember, coming out of the All-Star break last year, immediate sweep by the Cubs on the road in Chicago, and you felt like, oh, here we go again. They just got hot for 1 month. Turns out the 2022 Phillies were just fine. But big moment for the 23 Phillies here, rounding out the month of June. Then they're going to welcome the Milwaukee Brewers to town, another team in that wild card race as well. So 2 teams right off the bat who are NL playoff contending teams. You'll have to take care of business against them. Then you go to Cleveland and you face the 500 Guardians for 3. The Orioles come to Philly for 3. The Orioles, who are 54 and 35 and one of the best stories in baseball this year, a great team. They come to Philadelphia. Then the Phillies will head out to Pittsburgh and play the Pirates, who were hot at points this year, have a nice little squad out there. They're 41 and 49 now, but don't let the record fool you. They were very good to start the year, and maybe coming out of this break, they'll recapture some of that magic. And then as they turn into August, the Phillies will head back down to Miami for games against the Marlins, a 4-game set, which ends out July and begins August. So here's kind of what I'm looking at, okay? Padres, first one, 4-game series. 2 out of 4 is enough considering there's a doubleheader. 3 and 1, great. The Brewers, you got to take 2 or 3. They're 1 game better than you right now in the standings. You need to be better than them. And go ahead and take 2 or 3 against the Brewers. You're playing them at home. You should have momentum your way by playing well against the San Diego Padres. You need to play well in that Brewers series. probably the most important series for the rest of the month, not counting that Miami one, because that kind of transcends months. It crosses over. The Guardians, 500 baseball team. Try and take 2 out of 3. The Orioles, 1 out of 3 would be okay. They're a very good team. 2 out of 3 would be great. If that's a series you lose this month, that's the most losable series, is the Baltimore Orioles. The Pirates are good, but I still want to see the Phillies take 2 out of 3 from them. And then the Marlins, you got 4 games. So let's just look at it for the final game of the season, toss-up. So we'll call it toss-up. I'm going to give the Phillies a win just because they lost 2 or 3 this last series. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'd be okay with 10 more wins the rest of the way, which would lead to 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more losses. So 10 and 8 the rest of the month of July. Again, not sexy, but that puts your record at 58 and 49. You're 9 games above 500. You're 7 right now, so you pick up 2 more games on 500 like that, and you're sitting in a really good spot. I mean, if you continue to do that over the next couple months and just play like 3 games over 500 this month, 4 games over 500 this month, you're going to end up 13, 15. I don't know. You get hot really in one stretch and you're 17 games over 100, 17 games over 500. It's all on the table if you just play consistently good baseball and give yourself opportunities to win series. So you just break it down to the minutia. Here's the good thing. The Phillies have the 12th easiest schedule in all of baseball the rest of the way. The combined winning percentage of the teams they're playing is 500. So it's not an easy schedule, but it's not a hard one. There are a lot of teams out there with a more difficult schedule than the Philadelphia Phillies. So they got an opportunity there. They have the best home road splits the rest of the way. Not their performance, but how many games they play at home opposed to how many they play on the road. They got a lot of road games out of the way early, folks. So the Phillies are going to have a lot of games at Citizens Bank Park the rest of the way. An opportunity for them to settle in at home. And I know they've been road warriors, but it'd be nice to start getting that home field advantage back under their feet. And they'll have an opportunity to do that in the second half. So 73 games remaining. I don't know. Win 48 to 50 of them. Yeah, I'd feel good about that. That'd be a really, really good back end of the year. And I believe that's possible considering they won 48 of the first 85 games. And they're going to be better in the second half this time around. So, yes, that's my expectation, my goal for the Philadelphia Phillies in the second half. And that's kind of what we're looking at as far as just thought process on where the schedule goes for the rest of the month. Now, again, SiriusXM will have all the games, your hometown Phillies radio broadcast of the games the Philadelphia Phillies play when they're back from the All-Star break. Make sure you check out our friends at SXM, and they'll be able to help you out. Also, coming up tomorrow's episode, just to give you a little bit of a preview before we get into our final segment here, tomorrow's episode, we're going to be discussing first half grades for the Philadelphia Phillies. And we're also going to talk about a little recap of the home run derby that's going on tonight as well. If you're not familiar with the All-Star festivities, the Futures game already went on. We'll talk a little bit about that as well a little bit later in the week. It's not really time sensitive, so I can get into the Futures game and talk to you about what we saw from Mick Abel and Crawford, who were out, Justin Crawford, who was out in that game as well. And we'll discuss a little bit of the All-Star festivities. But because the home run derby's tonight, we'll react to it a little bit tomorrow at the end of tomorrow's episode. But yes, first half grades, home run derby, tomorrow's episode. And we'll continue to plug through the All-Star break and tie up some loose knots, some things I've been meaning to get to over the past month or so that haven't been able to for need of recapping games and telling you what's the latest of what's going on with the Philadelphia Phillies. So we'll discuss all of that. Coming up, we're going to wrap up again with just a look at the Phillies' first-round draft pick. I haven't watched this kid play, all right? I've only seen the highlights that they're available to everybody, but I'll give you my thoughts on it. I'll tell you what the Phillies did if you didn't see it and what it might mean for the future of the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll discuss as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. All right, let me tell you a little bit about Sleeper, okay? The All-Star break's going on, so you got a little bit of time off. You can really hone in your picks. But basically what this is, Sleeper's awesome because they set you up with a perfect 8-leg parlay every day. You can win 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball. I know it's that time of year. I've played fantasy baseball before. You're at the All-Star break. Your team, you might still have a little faith that they'll turn it around, but you could also be looking at a situation like our friends there with the Mets and say, technically there's time, but my team, my fantasy baseball team, or in that case, your real baseball team, might stink. And that could lead to either trade deadline moves, or it could lead to you saying, screw the fantasy over the course of the season. I want to go play daily fantasy and make more money than I could have ever made playing against my friends. And that's what you need Sleeper for. Sleeper is now offering up to a 100% payout for up to 8 pick contests. You can choose as many as 8 players that you like and pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats. You got home runs, strikeouts, hits, all that type of stuff. You get your picks right, and you could win big. The Sleeper app is super easy to use. It gives you the opportunity to go through very simply and make your picks. You just got to pick over or under and pick the stat from the menu, and you can go ahead and get that simply done. Now, the past couple games, if you had bet the Phillies to all be like under on their hits, you probably would have been great. But bottom line is there's hundreds of bets you can make, and it's not just one like straight flat bet like you'd make with a sportsbook. No, it's basically an 8-leg parlay that you put all together and you get all these guys. You can do less if you'd like to, but that maximizes the amount of money you can win. And you knock in a bunch of them, you win some money. It's super easy to do. I mean, there's a group chat functionality where you can see and copy your group's picks with the tap of a button. Entries can be made in 30 seconds or less. It's really that quick. Safe and fast withdrawals, which is important. You want your money to be protected and available to you quickly. I mean, Sleeper is just the best way to play daily fantasy baseball-wise, so go ahead and check out our friends at Sleeper. And guess what? Use promo code LOCKEDON, and you're going to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Free $100? Sounds great. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, let's go ahead and talk Major League Baseball draft. Now, there's like 4 billion rounds of the MLB draft, as you know. So it doesn't behoove us to do what the folks over in the NFL sphere or NBA sphere would do, where they would go through all the picks for their team. But I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the first round pick of the Philadelphia Phillies, because their history in the first round has been great recently. I mean, they went and got Justin Crawford, son of Carl Crawford, and he is now, well, he just played in the Futures game, so he's already paying dividends. He was last year's first-round pick. Then after that, it was Painter, it was Abel, it was Bohm before that. I mean, you've been looking really, really good recently. Nola's in there. I know he's super inconsistent, but Nola was still a guy that you got as first round. That was a pick that worked out. So the Phillies, outside of Moniak and Hazley and guys like that, more often than not, though, and since Dave Dombrowski's been here, they've really hit on their first-round selections. They didn't pick till 27, though. I don't know if you know this, Phillies had a pretty nice year last year, so that's why they picked a little bit later on in the first round. So they had one of the real first-round picks. Then after 28, it switched into compensation balance picks and everything like that. But the Phillies selected Aiden Miller. He's a prep third baseman out from Mitchell, Florida. Or Mitchell High School in Florida. So basically, the long and short of it on Miller, from what I understand, is comparisons he's being given are Josh Donaldson. So what that means is a stout third baseman who's going to have above average power. Defensively, we'll see what he is. Speed, I don't know, really. But you're not really drafting. He's not a Nolan Arenado, right? He's not going to be a super rangy, athletic third baseman. But he's a guy that can hit the heck out of the ball. Will he end up being a third baseman at the major league level? The glove seems solid enough to be able to do it. But again, he's still young. He's 19. So there's a lot of time before he'll be able to progress to that point. Bottom line is he had a broken hamate bone. It's hamate, right? I always forget how to say that. So he was dealing with an injury, might have caused him to drop more. The Phillies think they got value. Some people had him as high as like the 13th best prospect in the draft. You got a third baseman that can hit for power. Right now, you have a really good third baseman in Alec Bohm who doesn't really hit for power. So maybe at some point in the future, Bohm's move is to first base. And then Aiden Miller comes up in like 4 years and he plays third base. And then you have an infield of Miller, Stott, Turner, Bohm over at first. I don't know when Rhys Hoskins moves on, if Rhys Hoskins moves on. Maybe Derek Hall doesn't work out. Maybe Aiden Miller ends up, I don't know, developing into a guy who can DH for the Phillies somewhere down the line once Bryce Harper gets healthy and stuff like that. There are other opportunities, but he hits for power. He fields it all right over at third base. That's who the Phillies went ahead and added. I really don't know too much about the kid, but I trust Dave Dombrowski, and that's the bottom line. In the big draft like baseball, it's impossible to know all the prospects unless you're Lindsey Crosby. You host Locked On Prospects, and you should go ahead at Locked On MLB Prospects. And you can go ahead and check his workout, and he'll tell you everything you need to know about everybody. He's a genius. But for us non-geniuses out here, I think it's more important to trust the people making the pick, and I trust the Phillies brass and Dave Dombrowski. So there you have it. That's today's episode of Locked on Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. Make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that good stuff. Make sure you're checking out our friends on Sirius, the Sirius XM app, for all your Phillies games broadcasts of the hometown radio broadcast. That's all. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked on Phillies.